The next phase of China's water infrastructure, a national water grid. As China rolls out the blueprint of a national water grid, the authors examine the country's changing water engineering thinking. So, welcome back, guys. Today I decided to go with something a little different from what we usually go with, and this is a look into some infrastructure stuff. And this is from the site ChinaDialogue.net, and it's one of the top stories there actually right now at this point of recording. So let's go through it. So this picture here is the south to north water diversion project in Zhengzhou, Henan province, and there were about 300 new water infrastructure projects between 2014 and 2020. So those were already well and truly completed, most of them anyway. So let's begin. China's mega water projects such as the Three Gorges Dam and the South to North Water Diversion Project are famous. There is a sense in some quarters that the country is shifting from an emphasis on hard water infrastructure to more soft regulatory policy, and perhaps also from a focus on safety, so flood prevention and stuff like that, and supply to projects that emphasize ecological improvements such as pollution control and urban greening. Whilst there is no doubt that China's water policy and regulation is becoming more sophisticated, we argue that China's water infrastructure construction has continued to accelerate, and that ecological improvement plays only a modest part in this growth. So, it's not just water infrastructure, in my opinion, but it's also like just general infrastructure. So a lot of Anglos and stuff said that China's infrastructure boom is over or something like that. But in reality, it's only just, in my opinion, it's only just beginning. It's only just going to accelerate from here as China achieves more of an economy of scale and everything. Everything has to be pretty huge in scale to the point where it covers all of China. And infrastructure is a great way to unite the country as well. Nevertheless, there are important changes in the character of that construction. What we are witnessing is a new phase of Chinese water management, in which a national water grid is being developed, fed by interbasin transfers, and in which an existing water network is being elaborated. A new type of infrastructure boom. Far from signaling the end of major water infrastructure projects, the completion of the eastern and middle routes of the SNWD in 2014 coincided with the announcement by the State Council of 172 major new water infrastructure projects. By the end of 2019, 142 of these had commenced construction, with 17 of the remaining 30 projects shifted to a second round. That second round of 150 projects was announced in 2020 by the State Council, in part as a response to the floods of summer 2020. So there was a paper released in January 2022 which point to the government's plans to further expand water investment during the 14th 5-year plan period. So that goes from 21 to 25. So what we're witnessing is a new phase of Chinese water management in which a national water grid is being developed. So like the electricity grid and stuff like that. Information about the 172 plus 150 projects that has to be pieced together from the official websites of government agencies at different levels. We found that the projects include new dams, diversions, pumping stations to increase supply, control floods, raise irrigation supply and efficiency, and move water between regions. This also includes large ecological improvement projects. If completed, the projects will increase the quantity of water available for use nationally by 122 billion meters cubed annually, which is about a 20% increase. Save 26 billion meters cubed of irrigation water annually, increase flood control storage capacity by 31.6 billion. For comparison, this is equivalent to about half the annual flow in the Yellow River. So these are pretty incredible figures we're talking about. And I feel like China is already one of the, like, it's already up there. Probably is the best at controlling flood with just infrastructure alone, not even accounting for other things. And this increased China's irrigated area by about 10%. The total estimated investment will be 3 trillion yuan, or about $470 billion. On paper, there are four main types of infrastructure projects: interbasin water diversion projects, which make up about 36% of expenditure; water source projects, in which large dams or pumping stations are built to increase local water supply, so that's about 13%; enhancement of flood control capacity in dams and lakes, so 36%; and new irrigation systems, which make up 15%. In reality, there is some overlap in these figures, where projects have multiple uses such as dams for both flood control and water supply. 40% of the investment in these projects goes toward water for household and industrial use, another 20% for irrigation, and only 1% for ecological restoration. The remainder is primarily for flood control. Between 2008 and 2019, there was a spectacular sevenfold increase in annual expenditure on water infrastructure projects. The major boost in investment began with the 172 plus 150 projects after 2014. In 2001, flood control was the largest construction category, with 55% of investment, but this had fallen to 34% by 2019. Although it still constitutes the largest number of projects, investment in hydropower projects has also declined slightly. Projects aimed at increasing supply, predominantly dams and interbasin transfers, have consistently grown in importance over time, becoming the most important category after 2007, about 50% of investment in 2015. The volume of water allocated to ecological water, supplied to rivers, lakes, and wetlands, and for landscaping and environmental sanitation, has doubled from 10 billion to 20 billion, wow, since 2014. So this is from 2007, I think it is. But this still only makes up about 3% of total water use. The enormous increase in water available for use in these two rounds of projects is equal to 4 times the capacity of the SNWD's middle road. The multilayered grid. There are 3 distinctions between the 2 rounds of projects. First is in geographical focus. The main focus of the first round of projects was in the Yangtze. Second, Songhua and Liaoe. River. I think I absolutely butchered those pronunciations. Expanding the water's grid main skeleton. The second round of projects focus more on flood management, irrigation supply, and environmental flows in the Yellow River. The focus on the Yellow River is in line with the 14th five-year plan, which pays renewed attention to so-called high-quality development proposals for the Yellow River. The second distinction is an increase in the number of ecological water projects, suggesting that environmental flows are being given heightened priority in the 14th five-year plan period. The third is the idea of smart water projects, which are a new category introduced in the second round. There are 5 such projects in which hydrology and water resource information will be carefully monitored and digitalized in an attempt to micromanage the whole hydraulic infrastructure system. Even so, the largest number of projects retain the traditional goals of flood control, water diversion, and irrigation supply. Despite these differences, the SNWD and the projects have common justifications. The water resources are unevenly distributed to China, and that water is not located where development has occurred or should occur. So I think they mean the eastern side of the country, perhaps, or I could be mistaken, but that's where most of the development has occurred. So along the coastal regions, the volume of water shifted by interbasin transfer projects has steadily increased, reaching 48.5 billion meters cubed, per year by 2016, equivalent to a little less than 8% of national water use. Nearly 40% of the investment in the 172 projects consists of 16 major interbasin transfer distributed all over the country. In terms of governance, the current plan is to assign each of the 4 main layers of China's administrative hierarchy to perform specific duties. The central government is responsible for the main skeleton of the system, in addition to the 3 verticals and 4 horizontals of the SNWD. The 3 south to north planned roads of the SNWD linking 4 west to east flowing rivers. It will also be responsible for new water transfer projects, including the Han River to the Wei River, the Yangtze River to the Hui River Basin, canals from the SNWD to Zhongyan, so that's a new city coming up, and drinking water supply reservoirs in Inner Mongolia and the Beibu Gulf. Provincial governments will be responsible for linking their major hydraulic infrastructure within the provinces to this national main skeleton. Municipal and county level governments will be expected to focus on linking irrigation areas and local urban water systems to the main provincial networks. Water security redefined. The nature of this emerging network brings into question water scarcity and geographic imbalance as defining features of China's water profile. The development of a national water grid elaborates the existing water infrastructure system to coordinate the use of existing dams and river systems, often by diverting that water to neighboring basins. The emergence of this water skeleton already challenges notions of regional and national water availability. Cities in the north are now drawing on multiple sources of water, some from very far away. At regular intervals, we hear of impeding regional water and, by extension, geopolitical crises in China. If it works, a water network will render these scenarios increasingly unlikely. So you can see the recommended there, the invisible water shortage in Hebei's capital. The 12th and 13th five-year plans strongly emphasized the improved water quality and improved general amenity. The result has been some redirection of water for ecological purposes. Reflected in the plans developed Zhongyan, outside Beijing with extensive urban water area requiring over 500 million meters cubed of transferred water annually. So if you guys have seen it's called the Zhongyan animations, like architecture animations, and you can see like a substantial amount of water and nature and stuff like that. As noted above, investment in ecological water has increased, but the amount of water used for this purpose is still small. Thus, it is too early to argue that environmental purposes now dominate Chinese water investment. Nevertheless, this does point to a fundamental shift in priorities. The greening of urban space and improvements in water quality in river channels will be used as key indicators for evaluating China's water security. This does not appear to be a quick fix, merely flushing polluted river channels and lakes. The aim is to improve water quality from Class V, which is not for any use, to Class 3, minimum drinkable standard. So I'm guessing this is the plan for all river channels and lakes, basically. And that would be pretty massive. While mega infrastructure projects like the Three Gorges Dam and the SNWD have long been in the headlines, China has been quietly moving towards a highly integrated water supply network that has massively increased the water available for cities and irrigators, and is allowing the government to monitor and to some extent control how water flows at the national scale all the way through to the level of counties. The completion of mega water projects has not signaled the end of infrastructure construction. Instead, the pace of water construction has rapidly increased, especially with the 172 plus 150 projects post 2014. So this just follows the general trend in infrastructure in China, in my opinion. It'll just continue to increase, really, and I'm really excited to see what China will show us in the future. Like even in the next few years, we're gonna see some incredible things, in my opinion. Such a national water supplies network represents a continuation of some past emphasis, such as the focus on concrete-heavy infrastructure, but also represents a shift in ambition and a new attention to environmental concerns. Increasingly, such a network will consolidate control over water supply at the national level and allow the Chinese state to move water around at an unprecedented scale. So basically, this would solve pretty much all of the drought issues that China sees, and the lack of water for some cities. Well, right now they don't have a lack of water, but possibly in the future, they don't address it now. They could. Climate change and all. Also helps with new projects like Zhongyan, which do require a lot of water and stuff like that. So I'll be hoping to cover more infrastructure related subjects such as this in the future, and I'll see you guys next time.